and we really build a community. So when we walk into that prison, we've had inmates tell us, there's something different about you people. You glow when you come in here. We don't understand it, but we want some of that. And so much so that some of the inmates have coined phrases that are amazing. We were just talking about the other day, one of the guys at Folsom, some guys were acting up a little bit that were in the Kairos community inside, and this guy got up, great big Native American guy, and he's pointing to somebody across the room and says, you are the worst one. But he said, you can't come in here and pray on a Sunday and then go out and pray on your brothers in the yard the rest of the week. P-R-A-Y versus P-R-E-Y. So they really get it, and they take responsibility for who they are and what they do, and almost without a man. Has anybody seen Shawshank Redemption?
Yes.
Okay, remember when he's walking down the beach with the boat?
Yes.
I know at least 100 guys I'd like to see walking down that beach. I really do. So that's Kairos Outside, Kairos Inside for men and women, Kairos Outside for women who have an incarcerated family member. And my good friend and brother by another mother, Bob Maselli, will come on up and tell you about Torch, because guess what? Tag, he's it. He's the leader for the next Torch. That's going to happen at the end of April and the first day of May. And Bob I've known for about 30 years. We met at, guess what? Curcio School. His table, we started a group reunion out of that bunch, and we've been meeting every week since then.
Wow. Every week.
Every week. Every week. And I'm not tired of him yet. He's still kind of fun. I'm a little jealous though. He's got a little more hair than I do.
Let's talk about that.
So Bob, why don't you come on up and tell them about Kairos Torch and what we have going on over in Stockton.
I always hate to speak after him. He's a hard act to follow. But yeah, I just want to thank you for allowing us to be here and speak with you. I can remember my Curcio that I made in February of 1980 at Holy Redeemer Center here in Oakland. And the door opened on Sunday morning when we were eating breakfast, and a bunch of people came in and started singing, and I just looked at these angelic faces with these wonderful smiles, and I was sure I was the only one crying in the room. You know, I was trying to hide, blot my tears, and then I talked to everybody else, and they were all doing the same thing. You're just like angels when you come in and sing. I know you said you haven't done as much outreach, but boy, you appreciate it when you come in. I'll tell you, nothing like it. Yeah, I'm going to just talk to you about one of the ministries within the umbrella of Kairos, and that's Kairos Torch. It's held in Stockton at the institution is called Chadarian, but nobody can pronounce it or spell it, so we just call it Chad. The young men that we minister to most of them have been prosecuted as juveniles. Some actually, though they are under 18, have been prosecuted as adults, I should say. So we've had a young man as young as 15 come to our weekend, and then 23 is, well, it depends when you're prosecuted, I think, but 23 is generally the age at which they get released, or they end up going to state prison, or in some fashion they leave the institution. We are on our third Torch weekend. We had two last year, and then we go in this Friday for our third Torch. And Tom gave you a little preview of it. It's very much like a Curcio weekend. Ours is only 2.5 days with the young men. And again, the talks are tailored to their circumstance, their age. We have table families, we have table leaders, we have a lot of music. We have some activities just to burn off some energy with them. That you know, I tell you what, you see these guys, and they become little kids once again when they got a potato between their legs and having to race to the wall, or trying to pass a hula hoop without letting go of your hands. It's a lot of fun. And so we all know that that the song and the laughter helps to open the heart too. And so we do all of that on the weekend. So we go in on a Friday. They come in around dinner time, maybe what, 5:30, 6?
5:30.
Yeah. And when they come in, every person on the team is assigned to a young man who comes in on that weekend. And we act as what we call a guide on the weekend. We meet with them individually 4 different times during the weekend. That's apart from their table discussion. So when they come in, they call the young man's name who I'm going to guide, and I go introduce myself. I have a name tag that I hand him. Then I go take him to a table, get him some pizza, and we sit down and we just talk. And then I introduce him to the whole community. And it's kind of a low-key night. We actually have what we call a talk. It's a video presentation of the creation of God, and then interspersed with all of that lovely creation we see are the candidates who are making the weekend. Their faces comes on, and they love seeing themselves there. So we send them off to bed, and then we start really digging in come Saturday morning. We have several talks, and it proceeds very much like a Crucio. We end with a closing ceremony where we invite people from the outside to come in and experience the closing ceremony. And that is just the beginning of the ministry. It's opening a door, it's building a little bit of trust, maybe softening the heart a little bit. And then I think what is the real heart of our ministry is after the weekend is done, we take the first week off, but starting that Monday or Thursday, a week after the conclusion, we begin to mentor them. And the team members commit to a 6-month period of one-on-one mentoring for an hour a week with these young men. So I would have a young man assigned to me, and I would become his mentor. And I'd go in on Thursdays and meet with him from 5 until 6. Again, as Tom said, we have a book that's a curriculum, so you don't have to worry about what do I talk about with this young man. We have a curriculum you follow. It gets the ball rolling. And really the progression, it starts very slowly, because though we've experienced the weekend with them, their lives have very little trust, especially in the institution. They don't feel that they can really open themselves up to their fellow inmates. I asked one guy something about the friendships that he had, and he said, I have prison friends. And he made it clear that they help one another to get through this experience, but the minute they walk out the door, he's no longer my friend. So there's not a lot of trust. So a big part of our ministry begins with building trust. And then as the mentoring goes on, we get deeper and deeper into issues. And, you know, on the subject of being able to talk, my wife, actually, the way we got into it was, and Tom told you about our history together, and he said, well, he was going to lead this weekend, and would I, you know, come and help on the weekend and help train table leaders. Well, you know what, when I retired in 2008, and I used to pray, okay, Lord, I'm available, you know, here I am, Lord, use me as you will. Well, nothing came along. And then my wife and I began to babysit our grandchildren 3 days a week for about 8 or 9 hours, and I thought, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then Tom said, well, I'm leading this weekend, would you come and just help train the table leaders? I said, fine, but I'm not mentoring. And he said, that's all right, just come. And so then we had a team meeting, and my wife said, well, why did you go get your degree in counseling if you're not going to mentor? Well, she never tells me this stuff. She's usually telling me, back off, and here she is saying, you need to get a bigger commitment here. Well, what was I going to say? Tom, I'm going to mentor. So, but she wasn't going to mentor. She wanted me to mentor, but she didn't want to. So Tom, being the leader, had too much to do on the weekend, and he said to my wife, Josie, would you guide the fellow I'm going to mentor. And at the end of the weekend, I will become his mentor. And she said, sure. So we knew him as Anthony, and then about the time that Tom was done, and he had to substitute for some people who couldn't get clearance to come in and mentor. About the time he wanted to start mentoring Anthony, Josie said, you're not taking my Anthony. You know, the woman who was not going to mentor now had her Anthony. I think he could probably replace me. But she asked him one time, what do you get out of this? And he says, somebody I can talk to. I can't talk to these people here. So the trust level is very, very low inside the institution. And you know, we talk about visits. The young man that I mentored, his father was in prison. His mother is an addict. And when I went in and saw him and mentored him, I was the only visitor he's ever had. And that's not an uncommon thing, as Tom said. And, you know, just to show a little bit of the changes we might see in these young men as we mentor, there was a time when part of the curriculum, the question I asked him was, what do you fear most about your life? And he said, that I'll spend the rest of my life in prison. So we started talking about that. And he had a substance abuse problem. And you know, we talked about really the first thing he had to do was he had to lick that problem, that addiction. Because, you know, he said, oh, I can go live with my uncle in Texas, but, you know, if you're an addict, you'll hit Texas and within about an hour you'll know where every drug dealer is on the street. And he knew that. And so I was really, I felt so bad for him and hurt for him that was his fear, that he'd spend the rest of his life in prison. But as the mentoring continued, he actually got transferred before our 6 months was up. But near the end there, he was starting to talk about ways that he could not spend the rest of his life in prison. And I felt really good about that there had been some growth, some change of mind and heart, that he was looking for ways to live a productive life and not spend his life in prison. And there are a myriad of stories of these young men. The strongest statement that we make is we show up every Monday or every Thursday, whichever day of the week we mentor. Because that is well, I'll tell you, I can probably sum it up this way. I was talking to one of the young men, and we were talking about the program and you know, what he thought of it, and he says, well, I'll tell you, we have a lot of groups that come through here, and they give us a little food, and they say, we'll pray for you, and they leave and we never see them again. But you come back every week, and some of you come a big distance, and you pay for your own gas, and we know you care for us. And that was about the best thing I could hear from that young man. So that's our ministry. It's a weekend followed up by 6 months of one-on-one mentoring. The facility again is Chad in Stockton, and if you've got a minute to throw a prayer to the Lord for our ministry this weekend, our weekend, we would really appreciate it. And thank you very much for allowing us to be here.
So this is called put your money where your mouth is. And not money, actually. Put your prayer where your mouth is. We take these little strips, if I can get them out of here, I'm not sure I can. We take these little strips and we ask people to pray sometime during the weekend. Pray for an hour, pray for 10 minutes, whatever your knees will take. I know what mine will take, not much. But we then take those prayer strips that have like a name and Wednesday or Saturday at 10 o'clock, and we make a chain out of them. Well, let me tell you.
Prayer chain.
A prayer chain. So we convert your prayer into a link of a chain And for 2 weekends now, we have surrounded the gymnasium with prayer chains. And I'm talking a gymnasium. Because we do it in one section of it, but we go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And to see the look on the face of a young man when we bring out, we cheat, we know that. We come out with a 6-foot length of that chain. And we go up and place it around their shoulders while they're sitting at the table and say, they're praying for you. These kids look at every link of that chain. Then we take the chain links from, stop crying, you're killing me. We take the chain links, hook them all together, put them together with the bags full of them that we have, and just start circling the room and taping them up on the walls. So if you ever make it to a closing, you will come into a place that is like transformed. It's not a prison. It's not even a gym anymore. It's a gigantic place of listen, listen, love, love. So that's just one of the things that we do. We also, we raise money because we have to, because there's nobody's paying us to do this. We're using our own gas to get there. We got carpools. We have like 2 carpools leaving from San Ramon out in the park, or Dublin out in the parking lot. Every Monday, every Thursday, there's a carpool taking off for Stockton. Our longest driver came from Petaluma every week, and he's done that for a year. 2.5 to 3 hours to get there. Mentor for an hour, turn around and drive back. Is it difficult? Yes. It's a tough trip out there. Let me tell you, it is. But you know what?
Stockton,
We have formed a community there. As we come out of mentoring, 8 or 9 of us on a Thursday night will go off and eat at Panera's or something and talk about what's going on. You come back home and the drive home is nothing. Bam, you're there. But we also solicit donations for meal tickets. And when a young man comes to his table, his plate's here, we put several meal tickets down in front of him where people have sponsored him for that meal. So we ask for like a $10 donation per ticket. We also give them a Bible that was written for inmates and at about a 3rd grade level to be sure that it's understandable. It is so thick because the words aren't real big. There's lots of little ones in there. Those are the ways that we do things. We don't ask the team to pay anything. I made that a personal challenge. I have hated that idea. Curcio teams, Kairos teams have done it for years. I'm going, now this sounds really good. Now you're telling me I'm going to go work a 3.5-day weekend someplace, and I got to either sleep in the floor of a gymnasium or go get a hotel room, and I got to give you $150 besides? I don't like that. So I took that upon myself as a goal for Torch. We're never going to ask a team member for money. Just not going to do it. Because it's worked out. God has been generous. We've been able to generate the money that we need. We've had several restaurants in town, in Stockton, who literally donated the meals. One restaurant has given us 2 weekends in a row. This time I said, I don't want to ask you for money. I don't want to ask you for free. How much would you charge me? $3 a person for a 100 people tamale lunch. Wow. Homemade tamales. We have people donating pizzas. We got all kinds of stuff. We do a birthday cake on the weekend because some of these kids have never had a birthday party. We do a birthday cake, bring out a huge Costco sheet cake. We have a decorator over in San Ramon who's really tuned in on it. She can duplicate the Torch logo just like a champ. And then we put their names on a little flag on a stick and cut the piece of cake for them and shows up in front of them with their name on it. So lots of ways that the community gets involved. Team is very important because here's the key. However many mentors we get is how many young men will go on the weekend. We're on our 3rd weekend. We've had 37 guys so far. 21 this time. So we're now at 58 The whole institution only has 220 people in it.